The air recyclers hummed with a sick, grinding noise that made Jake Morrison's teeth ache. He stood in the main bunker, watching the power readings drop another 2%. 3 months ago, he had been worried about mining quotas and supply shipments. Now he counted every breath his people took. How long? He asked Lisa Carter, who was bent over a control panel with her tools spread around her like surgical instruments. Lisa wiped sweat from her forehead, leaving a streak of grease behind. Maybe 2 weeks if we shut down everything except life support. Maybe less if the Zephyrians hit us again. Jake nodded and tried to look calm. Around them, families huddled in the cramped spaces between machinery. Children played quiet games with broken toys while their parents stared at nothing. The lucky ones slept. Sleep meant they did not have to think about their empty stomachs or the aliens waiting above ground. Ben Rogers walked over from the security station. His face was grim, which meant bad news. Jake had learned to read that expression over the past 3 months. "They're moving again," Ben said quietly. "Looks like they're setting up another bombardment position on the North Ridge. Can we stop them?" Ben shook his head. "We've got maybe 30 people who can still fight. Half of them are miners with no combat training. The Zephyrians have energy weapons that can cut through our best armor like paper." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he saw Amy Sullivan approaching with her datapad. The xenobiologist had been studying the aliens since they first appeared. She knew more about their enemy than anyone else in the colony. "I've been analyzing their patrol patterns," Amy said. "They're not trying to kill us quickly anymore. This is deliberate. They want us weak and desperate. Why? Broken people are easier to control. The Zephyrians don't just want to conquer us. They want slaves who won't fight back." Lisa slammed her wrench against the control panel. "Well, they can wait forever. I'd rather die down here than work in their mines." "That might not be a choice much longer," Ben said. He activated a small screen showing the surface. Through the grainy camera feed, they could see the Zephyrian soldiers moving between the ruined buildings of their once thriving colony. The aliens stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and faces that looked like nightmares. Their skin was dark green and covered with natural armor plates. They moved with the confidence of predators who knew their prey was trapped. Jake had seen them up close during the first attack. Their eyes were black and emotionless. When they spoke through their translation devices, their voices sounded like grinding metal. They had offered surrender terms once, total submission in exchange for life. Jake had refused then, and he would refuse now. "Sir," called Tom Brady from the communications station, "I'm picking up something on long-range sensors." Jake felt his heart skip. They had been hoping for this moment for months. "What kind of something?" "Ship signature. Coming out of hyperspace at the edge of the system." The bunker fell silent except for the wheezing air recyclers. Every person turned toward the communications station. Children stopped their games. Parents grabbed each other's hands. "Is it one of ours?" Jake asked. Tom worked his controls frantically. "The signal is weak, but yes, it's definitely human technology. Terran Confederation Registry." A cheer went up from the survivors. People hugged each other and cried with relief. Jake felt his knees go weak. After 3 months of hell, help had finally arrived. "How long until they get here?" Amy asked. "At current speed, about 6 hours," Tom replied. Ben was already moving toward the weapons locker. "We need to signal them about the Zephyrian positions. If our people know where the enemy is, they can plan a proper rescue." Lisa had tears in her eyes as she worked to boost their communication array. "My little girl is going to see Earth again," she whispered. Jake opened a colony-wide channel. His voice echoed through every tunnel and chamber in their underground refuge. "This is Administrator Morrison. Our sensors have detected a Terran Confederation vessel approaching the system. Help is coming." The response was immediate. Voices called out from every corner of the bunker. People laughed and sobbed at the same time. Someone started singing an old Earth song and others joined in, but Jake noticed that Amy was not celebrating. She stood at Tom's station, studying the sensor readings with a worried expression. "Something wrong?" Jake asked her. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the screen. "The ship's configuration. Those aren't rescue pods or medical bays. Those are weapon systems." Ben looked over her shoulder. "So? They'll need weapons to fight the Zephyrians." "No, you don't understand. This isn't a rescue ship. It's a warship. A big one." Jake studied the readings. He did not understand all the technical details, but he could see Amy's point. The approaching vessel had enough firepower to level a planet. Maybe they're just being careful, Lisa said. The Zephyrians have been raiding human colonies for months. Our people probably want to make sure they can handle any threat. Tom's station beeped with an incoming transmission. I'm getting a signal from the ship. Put it through, Jake ordered. The speakers crackled with static, then a clear human voice filled the bunker. Kepler 442b colony. This is Captain Ryan Mitchell of the Terran Confederation ship Retribution. We are aware of the hostile alien presence in your system. All civilians are to remain in shelter until further notice. Jake grabbed the microphone. Captain Mitchell, this is Colony Administrator Jake Morrison. We have over 200 survivors in underground shelters. We need immediate medical supplies and evacuation. There was a long pause before the captain responded. Understood, Administrator. Medical aid will be provided after we deal with the hostile forces. Retribution out. The transmission ended, leaving the bunker quiet again. Jake looked around at his people. They were still smiling, still hopeful. They believed salvation was 6 hours away. But something in Captain Mitchell's tone made Jake uneasy. The man had sounded cold, professional. Not like someone coming to rescue civilians, but like someone coming to fight a war. Amy met his eyes across the bunker. She had heard it too. Whatever was approaching Kepler 442b, it might not be the salvation they had prayed for. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the tactical display with cold eyes. The Zephyrian fleet hung in orbit around Kepler 442b like vultures around a dying animal. 12 heavy cruisers, 30 smaller attack ships, and one massive command vessel that bristled with weapons. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet, reported Kate Andrews, his first officer. She was young for her rank, but Mitchell had seen her handle worse situations during the Centauri conflicts. Put it through. The main screen flickered, then showed the nightmare face of a Zephyrian commander. Its 4 arms gestured as it spoke through a translation device. Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. This system belongs to the Zephyrian Empire. Your species is weak. Submit now and your death will be quick. Mitchell almost smiled. After 3 years of fighting aliens across the outer colonies, he had heard variations of this speech dozens of times. They all said the same things. Humans were weak, resistance was futile, surrender was the only option. Chris, what's our tactical situation? Mitchell asked his weapons officer. Lieutenant Chris Parker studied his displays. They've got us outnumbered about 4-1, sir. But their ships are older designs, probably captured from other species they've conquered. Any sign they know what a Terran warship can do? Negative, sir. They're maintaining standard formation, no evasive patterns or defensive postures. Kate looked concerned. Captain, shouldn't we at least try to negotiate? There are civilians down there. Mitchell turned to face her. First officer, how many human colonies have the Zephyrians attacked in the past year? 17 confirmed, sir. How many survivors from those attacks? Kate's face went pale. None, sir. No survivors reported from any previous Zephyrian raids. Exactly. These aliens don't take prisoners, Andrews. They don't negotiate. They conquer, enslave, or exterminate. Mitchell looked back at the tactical display. The only language they understand is force. Down on the planet's surface, Jake Morrison watched the scanner readings with growing alarm. The Zephyrian fleet was moving into attack formation, but instead of targeting the approaching human ship, they seemed confident about the outcome. They're not even trying to run, Amy Sullivan observed. Look at their positioning. They think one human ship isn't a threat. Ben Rogers shook his head. Maybe they're right. That's a lot of alien firepower up there. Tom Brady looked up from his station. I'm detecting massive energy readings from the Retribution. Whatever they're planning to do, they're charging up for it. On the Retribution's bridge, Mitchell watched as the Zephyrian commander appeared on screen again. Human captain, you have 30 seconds to surrender before we destroy your primitive vessel. Primitive, Mitchell repeated. He looked at Chris Parker. Mr. Parker, please show our new friends what primitive human engineering looks like. Aye, sir. All weapons armed and ready. Kate, open a channel to the colony. Channel open. Sir. Mitchell's voice echoed through the underground bunkers of Kepler 442b. Colony survivors, this is Captain Mitchell. Take cover immediately. We are engaging hostile forces. Do not attempt to leave shelter until we give the all clear. Jake grabbed the microphone. Captain, what about negotiations? Maybe we can find a peaceful solution. Mitchell's response was ice cold. Administrator, there is no peaceful solution with the Zephyrian Empire. They came here to destroy your people. Now we're going to destroy them. The transmission ended. In the bunker, families huddled closer together as the lights flickered. Above them, they could hear the low rumble of energy weapons charging. On the Retribution, Chris Parker reported full weapon readiness. Sir, all missile tubes loaded. Energy weapons at maximum charge. Electronic warfare systems online. Shields up maximum power, Mitchell ordered. Kate, signal the fleet back home. Tell them we've engaged Zephyrian forces at Kepler 442b. Sir, shouldn't we wait for backup? Mitchell looked at the tactical display one more time. The Zephyrian ships were spreading out, clearly planning to surround and destroy the lone human vessel. Their commander was probably already celebrating victory. No, Kate, the backup is for cleaning up afterward. The Zephyrian commander's voice crackled over the speakers one final time. Your time has expired, human. Prepare to join your pathetic colonists in death. Mitchell walked to the center of the bridge. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency. They had done this before, fought against impossible odds and won, not through superior numbers or better technology, but through something the aliens never expected: absolute, merciless determination. All stations report ready. Captain, Kate announced. Very well. Mitchell paused for a moment, thinking about the families hiding in bunkers below. They expected him to save them, but salvation and rescue were two different things. Mr. Parker, target the command vessel first. Full spread of quantum torpedoes. After that, pick your targets and engage at will. Aye, sir. Firing. The Retribution shuddered as 24 quantum torpedoes launched from her tubes. On the tactical display, bright points of light raced toward the Zephyrian fleet. In the colony bunker, the lights went out completely as the planetary power grid overloaded from the electromagnetic pulse of the weapon discharge. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting strange shadows on worried faces. What was that? Lisa Carter asked. Amy Sullivan was studying her portable scanner. Energy signature unlike anything I've ever seen. Whatever weapons that ship carries, they're not standard Colonial Defense Force equipment. Jake Morrison felt a chill that had nothing to do with the failing life support. Tom, can you get us a visual on what's happening up there? Tom worked frantically with his equipment. I'm trying, sir, but there's massive interference. Whatever's happening in orbit, it's generating enough energy to scramble every sensor on the planet. Above them, the Retribution's torpedoes reached their targets. The massive Zephyrian command ship, confident in its shields and armor, made no attempt to evade. The first torpedo impact lit up the alien vessel's shields like a miniature sun. The second torpedo broke through. By the time the 20th torpedo hit, there was nothing left but expanding debris. The alien fleet, which had been so confident moments before, suddenly found themselves facing something they had never encountered. A human warship built not for exploration or defense, but for war. Captain Mitchell watched the tactical display with satisfaction as the Zephyrian formation began to break apart. Kate, signal all ships, no quarter. No prisoners. No survivors. Sir, that's... Mitchell turned to face his first officer. That's exactly what they would do to those colonists down there. The difference is, we're better at it than they are. The battle above Kepler 442b was unlike anything the Zephyrian Empire had ever experienced. Their ships, designed to overwhelm primitive species through superior numbers and firepower, found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow the accepted rules of space combat. Lieutenant Chris Parker worked his weapons console like a master musician, playing a deadly symphony. Direct hit on Target 7. Target 12 is breaking formation. Target 3 is... gone. Captain Mitchell watched the tactical display with professional interest. The Zephyrian ships were trying to use standard fleet tactics, forming defensive clusters and concentrating their fire. It might have worked against the species they had conquered before, but humans had learned warfare from different teachers. Kate, launch fighters. I want them to hit the enemy ships from behind while they're focused on us. Sir, we only have 12 fighters against their remaining fleet. 12 human fighters, Mitchell corrected. There's a difference. Down on the planet's surface, the Zephyrian ground forces were receiving increasingly desperate communications from their fleet. Hive leader Zektar, the local commander, could not understand what was happening. His species had conquered 47 different civilizations. No single ship should be able to challenge an entire fleet, but the energy signatures from orbit told a different story. One by one, Zephyrian vessels were going dark. Not disabled or retreating, but completely destroyed. Jake Morrison crouched behind a pile of rubble, watching the alien soldiers through broken windows. For the first time in 3 months, they looked worried. Their confident swagger was gone, replaced by nervous movements and constant glances at the sky. "Ben, you seeing this?" Jake whispered into his communicator. Ben Rogers was positioned 50 meters away with a group of armed colonists. "Yeah, I see it. They're scared. Never thought I'd see a Zephyrian scared of anything." Amy Sullivan was with another group, using her knowledge of alien biology to coordinate their improvised attack. "Their armor has weak points at the joints," she said over the radio. "If we can hit them there with our mining explosives, we might actually hurt them." Lisa Carter had rigged several mining charges with remote detonators. "Everyone ready? When that warship hits their orbital platforms, we move. These bastards won't be getting reinforcements." In orbit, the Retribution was systematically dismantling the Zephyrian fleet with terrifying efficiency. The alien ships tried every tactic they knew: ramming attacks, plasma barrages, coordinated assault patterns. Nothing worked. The human warship moved through their formation like a shark through a school of fish. "Sir, the aliens are trying to broadcast a surrender signal," reported Ensign Tracy Wells from the communications station. Mitchell did not even look up from the tactical display. "Tell them we don't speak Zephyrian. Sir, our translators are working perfectly. We could understand them if we wanted to." "I know, Wells. Tell them we don't speak Zephyrian." Kate Andrews felt sick as she watched another alien ship explode on the main screen. "Captain, maybe we should consider their surrender. The colony is safe now." Mitchell finally turned to look at her. "First officer, how many mercy requests did the Zephyrians honor when they attacked our colonies?" "None, sir, but how many civilian evacuation ships did they allow to escape?" "None, sir. How many prisoners of war have they taken in their entire military history?" Kate's voice was barely a whisper. "None, sir." "Then why exactly should we show them mercy they would never show us?" On the planet's surface, the coordinated attack began. The colonists had spent 3 months learning to hate their oppressors, and now they had weapons and opportunity. Mining charges exploded under Zephyrian positions. Colonists armed with mining tools and improvised weapons attacked from multiple directions. Dan Foster, a former Earth military engineer, had helped coordinate the assault. "Hit them fast and hard. Don't give them time to organize a counterattack." The Zephyrians, distracted by the disaster in orbit, were caught completely off guard. Their ground forces had been expecting broken, starving humans. Instead, they faced desperate people who had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Amy Sullivan watched a group of alien soldiers fall back from their command post. "They're retreating toward the landing pads, probably trying to evacuate." "Not happening," Ben Rogers growled. He detonated another series of charges, cutting off the aliens' escape route. "They wanted to be here. They can stay here." In the underground bunker, families watched the battle through whatever cameras still worked. Children who had been starving and frightened for months now saw their parents fighting back. Tom Brady coordinated communications between the fighting groups, making sure everyone knew where the enemy was moving. "Group 3, you've got 6 Zephyrians moving toward your position from the east," he reported. "Copy that. Tom, we see them." "Group 7, the aliens are trying to reach their shuttle pad. Can you cut them off?" "Already on it." Above them, the battle in space was reaching its conclusion. The last few Zephyrian ships were trying desperately to escape, but the Retribution's fighters were hunting them down one by one. "Sir, 3 enemy ships are attempting to flee the system," Chris Parker reported. "Pursuit course, maximum speed," Mitchell ordered. "We're not letting any of them leave." Kate looked at him in disbelief. "Sir, the colony is safe. Our mission is complete. Why pursue fleeing ships?" Mitchell's answer came without hesitation. "Because if even one of them escapes, they'll report our capabilities to the Empire. They'll adapt their tactics, build bigger fleets, and attack other human colonies. So we're not just fighting for this colony? No, Kate. We're fighting to make sure no human colony ever faces this threat again." The Retribution accelerated past the orbital debris of the destroyed Zephyrian fleet. In the ship's wake, the remains of nearly 50 alien vessels drifted in the vacuum. Not one had been allowed to surrender. Not one had been captured for interrogation. Not one had escaped to fight another day. On the planet below, Hive leader Zektar realized that his entire force was trapped. The humans they had planned to enslave were hunting them with a fury the Zephyrian had never encountered. These were not the broken, defeated creatures he had expected. He tried to contact his fleet for evacuation, but only static answered. His orbital support was gone. His escape routes were cut off. For the first time in his military career, Zektar understood what it meant to be prey. In the colonial bunker, Jake Morrison received a transmission from Captain Mitchell. "Administrator, we've cleared the orbital zone. Your people can begin surface operations to mop up remaining hostiles." "Captain, what about prisoners? Some of these aliens might have useful information." Mitchell's response was cold as space itself. "Administrator, the Zephyrian Empire doesn't believe in prisoners of war." As of today, neither do we. 3 Zephyrian ships had managed to break away from the orbital battle, fleeing toward the edge of the system at maximum speed. Their crews sent desperate messages back to the Empire, trying to warn their leaders about the human warship that had destroyed an entire fleet. Captain Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the fleeing aliens on his tactical display. His ship was faster, better armed, and crewed by humans who understood that mercy was a luxury they could not afford. "How long until we catch them?" Mitchell asked. 12 minutes to intercept the closest ship," Chris Parker reported. "The other 2 will take longer, but we'll get them." Kate Andrews looked troubled. "Sir, those ships are running away. They're not a threat to the colony anymore." Mitchell turned to face his first officer. "Kate, let me tell you something about war. The enemy you let escape today becomes the enemy that kills your people tomorrow. Those ships have detailed information about our weapons, our tactics, our capabilities. If they reach Zephyrian space, every human colony in this sector becomes a target." On the surface of Kepler 442b, the colonists were finishing their own war. The Zephyrian ground forces had been cut off, surrounded, and systematically eliminated. These were not soldiers surrendering with honor. They were predators who had found themselves facing hungrier predators. Ben Rogers led a group of miners through the wreckage of the alien command post. They found communication equipment, weapons, and data storage devices. Everything was damaged beyond use, destroyed by the aliens themselves rather than let it fall into human hands. "Thorough bastards," muttered Dan Foster, examining a melted computer terminal. "They don't want us learning anything about their technology." Amy Sullivan was studying the body of a dead Zephyrian soldier. "Look at this armor. It's not just protection, it's a life support system. These aliens can't survive in our atmosphere for long without it." "Good to know," Ben said grimly. "Makes them easier to kill." In the underground bunker, families were slowly emerging from their hiding places. Children who had not seen sunlight for 3 months blinked in the artificial lighting as their parents led them toward the surface elevators. Jake Morrison stood in the main command center, watching status reports from around the colony. The Zephyrian occupation was over, but the cost had been enormous. Half their buildings were destroyed. Most of their equipment was damaged or missing. They would need months of work to restore basic services. Lisa Carter approached with a damage report. "Jake, it's not as bad as it could have been. The aliens were more interested in keeping us alive than destroying our infrastructure. They wanted slaves, not rubble. How long before we're operational again? If that warship can spare some supplies and technical help, maybe 6 weeks for basic services. Full restoration will take years." Tom Brady looked up from his communication station. "Sir, I'm receiving multiple signals from the outer system. Looks like Captain Mitchell is hunting down the escaped Zephyrian ships." Jake frowned. "Hunting them down? Why?" "They're running away." Amy Sullivan had been listening to the tactical communications. "From what I can understand, the captain doesn't want any survivors reaching Zephyrian space with information about human military capabilities." "That seems extreme." "Maybe. But consider this. If those ships escape, every human colony becomes a target for revenge attacks. The Zephyrians will know exactly what kind of force they need to send to defeat ships like the Retribution. In space, the first fleeing Zephyrian vessel found itself face-to-face with 12 human fighters. The alien ship tried to surrender, broadcasting pleas for mercy in multiple languages. The response was a coordinated missile attack that left nothing but debris. Captain Mitchell watched the destruction with satisfaction. 2 ships remaining. Kate, signal the engine room. I want maximum power to weapons and propulsion. Sir, the crew is asking about prisoners. Some of the fighter pilots report that the aliens are trying to surrender. Mitchell's expression never changed. Tell the crew that the Zephyrian Empire has never taken human prisoners. They don't believe in surrender. Today they're going to learn that neither do we. The second Zephyrian ship lasted longer, using evasive maneuvers and defensive fire to stay ahead of the pursuing fighters. Its crew sent increasingly desperate messages, offering information, technology, anything that might buy their lives. Chris Parker looked uncomfortable as he translated the alien transmissions. "Sir, they're offering to provide intelligence about Zephyrian fleet movements. They say they can help us locate other human prisoners." "There are no other human prisoners, Parker. The Zephyrians don't take prisoners. They never have." "But sir, if there's even a chance." Mitchell stepped closer to his weapons officer. "Mr. Parker, how many human colonies have sent distress calls in the past year?" 17, sir." "How many had survivors when we arrived?" Parker's voice dropped to a whisper. "Just this one, sir. And only because we got here in time." "Exactly. The Zephyrians don't leave survivors. They don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. The only choice they give their victims is how they want to die." Mitchell returned to his command chair. "Today we're giving them the same choice." The second ship died under a barrage of quantum torpedoes. The third and final vessel tried a different strategy, diving toward the system's asteroid belt and hoping to lose its pursuers in the rocky maze. It almost worked. The human fighters had to break off their pursuit to avoid collision with the larger asteroids. But the Retribution was not deterred by such obstacles. "Parker, target the asteroid where that ship is hiding. Full spread, maximum yield. Sir, that will destroy the entire asteroid." "That's the idea." The quantum torpedoes turned a mountain-sized asteroid into cosmic dust. The Zephyrian ship caught in the explosion simply ceased to exist. Kate Andrews stared at the tactical display in horror. "Sir, there's nothing left. No wreckage, no escape pods, nothing." "Good. Now every Zephyrian ship in this system has been accounted for." Mitchell opened a communication channel to the colony. "Administrator Morrison, this is Captain Mitchell. The system is secure. All hostile forces have been eliminated." Jake's voice came through the speakers. "Thank you, Captain. When can we expect the evacuation ships?" "What evacuation ships?" "To evacuate the colonists. Our facilities are badly damaged. We'll need to relocate to another world while we rebuild." Mitchell's response surprised everyone listening. "Administrator, there will be no evacuation. You're staying here." "I don't understand. This colony is now a strategic position in the defense of human space. We're establishing a military base here. Your people will help us build it." In the bunker, Jake felt a chill. "Captain, these are civilians. Families with children. They've been through enough, yes they have. And now they're going to make sure no other human families go through the same thing. Congratulations, Administrator. You're now the governor of humanity's newest fortress world." The transmission ended, leaving the colonists in stunned silence. They had waited for salvation, but what had arrived was something else entirely. They were not being rescued. They were being recruited. 2 weeks after the battle, Admiral Karen Price arrived at Kepler 442b with a full colonial defense fleet. Her ships dropped out of hyperspace to find a system transformed. Where once there had been a small mining colony under siege, now there was the foundation of humanity's newest military stronghold. The Retribution hung in orbit like a metal monument to human determination. Around it, construction crews worked on new defensive platforms, supply depots, and communication arrays. The message was clear to anyone who might visit this system. Humans were here to stay. Admiral Price materialized on the bridge of the Retribution, her expression unreadable as she reviewed Captain Mitchell's after-action report. 47 Zephyrian ships destroyed. No survivors. No prisoners. No ships allowed to escape. "That's correct, Admiral," Mitchell replied. "And the ground forces? Eliminated. The colonists handled most of that themselves." Price looked out at the orbital construction. "I see you've been busy since the battle. The colony is being converted to a forward military base. The civilians are cooperating fully." "Are they cooperating, or do they have a choice?" Mitchell met her gaze steadily. "Admiral, these people have seen what the Zephyrian Empire does to human colonies. They understand the necessity of defending against future attacks." On the planet below, Jake Morrison stood in what had once been the colony's main administrative building. Half the structure was damaged, but repair crews were already working to restore it. Through the broken windows, he could see Terran military engineers surveying sites for new installations. Lisa Carter approached with a tablet full of construction schedules. "The military wants to build a starship repair facility where the South Mining Complex used to be. They're offering full compensation, plus jobs for anyone who wants to stay." And if we don't want to stay? Lisa hesitated. They haven't exactly said we can leave. Ben Rogers entered the room wearing a new Terran military uniform. Jake, I need to talk to you about the recruitment program. What recruitment program? The military is offering commissions to anyone with combat experience. Good pay, excellent benefits, and a chance to make sure what happened here never happens to another human colony. Jake looked at his old friend in disbelief. Ben, you're a miner, not a soldier. I was a miner. Now I'm someone who's seen what we're up against out there. Ben's expression was serious. Jake, I've talked to the military intelligence people. The Zephyrian Empire has raided over 200 worlds in the past decade. They don't just conquer, they exterminate entire species. And the answer is to become like them. The answer is to become something they can't fight. Amy Sullivan had been quiet during this exchange, but now she spoke up. I've been analyzing the battle recordings. Do you know what the most interesting thing was? The Zephyrians never adapted. They kept using the same tactics even when those tactics were clearly failing. What's your point? Jake asked. My point is that they've never faced an enemy like us before. Every other species they've conquered probably tried to negotiate, to find a peaceful solution. They surrendered when defeat became inevitable. Lisa shook her head. And humans don't do that? Apparently not. Captain Mitchell had them outnumbered 4-1 and he still attacked. When they tried to surrender, he ignored them. When they tried to flee, he hunted them down. Jake felt uncomfortable with the direction of this conversation. So we're the monsters now? Amy looked out the window at the orbital construction. Maybe, but we're monsters who protect our own. In orbit, Admiral Price was receiving reports from across human space. The news of the Kepler 442b victory had spread quickly, and the effects were already being felt. Admiral, we're getting reports from the frontier, Captain Mitchell informed her. 3 Zephyrian raiding fleets have changed course away from human colonies in the past week. Retreating? It appears so. Our intelligence suggests they're regrouping in their core systems. Price studied the tactical displays showing human space. Red marks indicated Zephyrian raids over the past year. In the weeks since Kepler 442b, all raiding activity had stopped. What about other alien species? How are they reacting? Mixed responses. Some are offering alliance proposals. Others are increasing their own military preparations. A few have sent diplomatic missions asking about our intentions. And what are our intentions, Captain? Mitchell's answer came without hesitation. To make sure humanity never again has to count the cost of alien aggression in civilian lives. Down on the planet, the transformation continued. The mining colony was becoming a fortress. Families who had spent months hiding underground now worked, alongside military personnel, to build defensive positions and weapon emplacements. Tom Brady had been promoted to communications coordinator for the new base. His job was to monitor alien communications across a 100-light-year radius. What he was hearing worried him. Jake, you need to see this, he said, calling up a series of intercepted transmissions on his screen. Jake read the translated messages with growing concern. Alien species across the sector were discussing the human problem. Some wanted to establish diplomatic relations. Others were talking about preemptive strikes. How many species are we talking about? At least 20 different civilizations have mentioned humans in their communications in the past 2 weeks. Most of them have never had any contact with us before. And now they're all suddenly interested. Word travels fast out here. The complete destruction of a Zephyrian fleet by a single human ship has gotten everyone's attention. Jake looked out at the construction crews building humanity's newest fortress. I think that was the point. That evening, Jake received a message from Captain Mitchell requesting a meeting. They met in the temporary command center, where military personnel coordinated the base construction around the clock. Administrator Morrison, I want to explain something to you, Mitchell began. Your people have been asking questions about evacuations, about whether they can leave. People are scared. They want to know they have options. They do have options. They can help build humanity's future, or they can watch from the sidelines while others do it for them. Jake felt his anger rising. These are civilians, Captain. They didn't sign up for a war. None of us signed up for a war, Administrator. But the war found us anyway. The Zephyrians made sure of that when they started exterminating human colonies. Mitchell activated a holographic display, showing the local sector of space. Look at this. Every red dot is a world the Zephyrians have attacked in the past 5 years. Every blue dot is a human colony. Jake could see the pattern. The red dots were moving steadily toward human space like a spreading infection. They weren't planning to stop with your colony, Administrator. They were using this world as a staging area for attacks deeper into human territory. If we hadn't arrived when we did, 50 more human worlds would have faced the same fate. So what happens now? Mitchell's expression was grim but determined. Now we make sure they understand the cost of threatening human lives. We build bases like this one across the frontier. We patrol space with ships like the Retribution. And we make it clear to every alien civilization in the galaxy that humanity is no longer prey. Jake looked at the star map, understanding for the first time the scope of what was happening. You're not just defending human space. You're expanding it. We're securing it. There's a difference, is there? Mitchell met his eyes. Administrator, your people waited for salvation. Instead, they got something better. They got the promise that no human child will ever again have to hide in underground bunkers while aliens decide their fate. Outside the command center, construction continued through the night. In orbit, the first of the new defensive platforms came online. Across human space, more ships like the Retribution were being built. The galaxy had learned something important at Kepler 442b. Humans were no longer content to simply survive. They had decided to win.